Hello again, I am Blunty. A couple of weeks into January this year, Nintendo finally gave us our first peek at the long-anticipated successor to this spectacularly successful Nintendo Switch. And we learned that they're keeping the naming scheme simple this time, thank goodness for that, and just calling it the Switch 2, so that's cool. And in 2 weeks' time, on the 2nd of April, which, by the way, get ready for the mind-numbing tedium of April Fool's garbage flooding out about it. But on the 2nd, we have a new Nintendo Direct promising a closer look at the Nintendo Switch 2. One might assume this time we'll actually see some legitimate gameplay, and at least a tease, hopefully more than that, of the launch games lineup. So, there's lots of speculation and rumors flying about right now about Switch 2 release dates. Most people seem to be saying June, late June, and pricing. Several analysts, and don't even get me started on the horse crappery analysts tend to plop out, but those people are claiming anything from $400 to $500 in terms of USD pricing, which puts it in the price range of the driveless PS5. So there is that to look forward to, I suppose. In any case, it's confirmed it's in mass production already, so we are really close to launch now. Which also means leaks and speculations driven by filings to the FCC are starting to appear. And that's what I'm here for today. First discovered a few days back by members of the Famiboards forums, a new FCC filing has been discovered and it looks quite a lot like a GameCube controller. Now, Nintendo aren't foolish. They know people scour these filings looking for leaks and rumors and whatnot, so they often try to obscure the true nature of the product in various ways. But the speculation that this is a new GameCube-style controller intended for GameCube games making their way to the Nintendo Switch Online subscription service hang largely on the intended placement of the FCC ID label. I know, sounds thin, right? But that positioning being, instead of being central on the back like almost every other modern controller in existence, it's significantly off-center to the lower left relative to looking at the back of the controller. And guess what iconic Nintendo controller has a shape that would necessitate such a positioning of a label? Yep, GameCube does. Also noted, just like the other NSO controllers like the Super Nintendo one and the Nintendo 64 one, it of course is listed as using Bluetooth. But, unlike the others, it is apparently using the Switch 2 model number prefix, which is BEE, instead of the original Switch prefix, which is HAC, being listed as having the model number of BEE-021. The forum poster also suggests that this likely also means the speculated GameCube Nintendo Switch Online service will be Switch 2 exclusive. And while technically, as modders have proven for some time now, GameCube emulation on the original Switch hardware is technically possible, like it does work. It's pretty borderline when it comes to reliable performance across the library and needs an overclock to really make it practical and more consistent, which of course honks your battery, generates tons of heat, and void your warranty along the way. So it's pretty obvious why Nintendo never bought GameCube games to the OG Switch's official subscription service. Obviously, we're expecting the significant performance bump from the Switch 2 to bring GameCube game emulation to a far more practical position, enough that Nintendo would officially bring GameCube games to the online service. The controller itself may still be original Switch compatible though. Nintendo do like their backwards compatibility, and that would be nice because there are a few original Switch games that will support GameCube controllers over USB at least, and we do know the Switch 2 is fully backwards compatible with the Switch, so for those games to be compatible with this controller, it would just kind of make sense, wouldn't it? The original poster also points out that it seems unlikely that this is merely some kind of Switch 2 Pro controller, because it lacks NFC support. And we know this because if it had NFC support, being a wireless thing, it would have to be in the FCC filing. So all of that would seem an unlikely choice for Nintendo's official Pro controller to do without one of these key features. So while it is all just speculation, and let's be really clear about this is speculation, there is some sound reasoning going on here for that speculation and to support that speculation. And an official, legally white, if you like, way to enjoy the not insignificant pile of truly terrific GameCube games is an extremely highly desired option within the Nintendo fan community. You will always hear people crying out for it, for GameCube games to come to the online service for re-releases and remakes and remasters and all that kind of stuff. I loved my GameCube. It is absolutely one of my very favorite gaming consoles of all time, in fact. And the Wavebird controller you've been seeing me use in the background footage here, and if you're not familiar with these, this is Nintendo's official wireless gaming controller for the GameCube. That is my own original one, making it well over 22 years old and heavily used back in the day, and it still looks, feels, and works like it's new. It was just bulletproof and the first truly practical official wireless controller from any gaming company. And Nintendo really did stamp down on this one. They led the way with this controller. After this thing existed, every single subsequent console release came with wireless controllers as default, because Nintendo showed it works really, really well if you design it properly. Before this came out, nobody wanted to use wireless controllers because of lag and input delay and yada yada yada. No, this changed everything. It is one of Nintendo's best feats of engineering, in my opinion, at the very least for their accessories. My GameCube, though, was sadly stolen from the back of a moving truck many years ago, which I'm still really upset about. But I am at least thankful that my Wavebird survived and stayed with me at least, because I do truly love this thing. And of course, there's any number of third-party Joy-Cons out there that emulate the style and layout of the beloved GameCube controller. I do worry, though, about how many GameCube games from its library we might be able to see through Nintendo's online service. Because the GameCube comes from the era of gaming where there was a lot of licensed games around. Games based on movies and TV shows and all that kind of stuff. And after so much time, it is incredibly common for that licensing stuff to make it incredibly difficult, if not damn near impossible, to legally re-release such games, or even remake them, which is why we don't see it very often. And I mean, let's also be fair about this. A lot of licensed games were kind of trash. Like, they were really bad, just quick and dirty cash-in kind of stuff to go along with the movie release and all that kind of crap. But even some of the trash ones were kind of a lovely trash. You know what I mean? The Buffy game here, for example, Chaos Bleeds. I was so excited when this game was coming out because I love Buffy. But the game, it's it's from a time where today's default standardized movement and camera controls, you know, we kind of take for granted and just automatically muscle memory in every single game we pick up these days, they were still being solidified. So the controls were kind of garbage, especially the camera controls, really, really, really awkward. And the writing in this game is kind of painfully cringy at times. I mean, it was written by a guy who has written a lot of Buffy stuff. I don't think he did any TV episodes, but I think he did several of the games and some comics and stuff. But it's kind of bad writing. The dialogue, especially, it just doesn't live up to, you know, the sparkling dialogue we know and love from the show. And several of the cast do in fact reprise their roles, so they sound right. But you can also kind of tell their hearts really aren't in the performances. They're often kind of a little bit flat and bored. Or maybe they were just given kind of awful direction. I don't know. But several roles were recast, and not super well. Harry Walgreen's attempt at imitating the wonderful Alison Hannigan's Willow is kind of painful, if I'm honest. But with all of that, I still kind of loved the game. It was not a very good video game, but I loved it because it was Buffy, man. And we really don't get games like this anymore. Look at Simpsons Road Rage. Classic, beloved. People have been screaming for a remake of this forever. And yes, I know about that one fan project, people. I watched the videos through the development of that, but that also cannot ever be released. But the proper game, its licensing malarkey, has kept that from being, a thing today, with Disney acquiring Fox and therefore The Simpsons. But the publishers, Electronic Arts and THQ, THQ imploded over a decade ago, and the original developer, also long gone. I can't even imagine the tangle of rights and licensing that have to be dug out to just re-release this game, as much as we all might want it. I got a funny feeling it's just not worth anybody's time to spend the money on the lawyers to get to that point. But Mario Kart Double Dash, my personal favorite Mario Kart of all time, probably mostly due to memories tied to it and playing with my mates on my big reproduction TV. And many, many weekends disappeared into that game, having a great time. But this game is probably a lock-in, of course. First party Nintendo, easy peasy, smush an NSO online mode into it, and you're just golden. Terrific, classic Mario Kart online fun right there. Soul Calibur 2. I spent endless hours with that game. Not that you can tell from my gameplay. It's been a it's been a minute since I played it last, and turns out I've forgotten how to do it good. But this game comes from back before fighting games were completely and shitified into utter and complete garbage. I hate modern fighting games. I truly do. But this game comes from the era where they were great. Properly, truly great. Soul Calibur 2 is an interesting one. Each platform, it was a multi-platform game, and each platform it released on had a unique character. The GameCube, as you can see here in this gameplay, had Link, which blew people's minds back in the day. That was so weird and so awesome. The PlayStation 2 version had Heihachi from Tekken. That was pretty cool. And for some reason no one understood, probably because Xbox didn't have a lot to pick from, the Xbox version had Spawn. That's not even a Microsoft thing. They just had Spawn, like the comic book guy. Togma fun. I guess maybe Todd was just eager to license to get Spawn out there. He's a merciless self-promoter if it is anything. But that last one, and the licensing of Spawn, was thought to be why this game was delisted from sale completely from the Microsoft Store a bunch of years ago. The license probably expired. They legally can't sell the game anymore, so I don't know. But you'd have to think that the GameCube version, safe with Nintendo's own Link in there, would easily be able to be re-released, right? I mean, Bandai Namco is still around. They're still making new games. They've got new ones coming out. The last Soul Calibur game was only released 7 years back, so it's still relatively active as an IP in their hearts and minds. Could be useful to release this as a NSO thing for a refresher for the IP, right? Maybe drive some hunger for a new Soul Calibur. Who knows? The two Pokemon games from Genius Sonority. Oh, Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. Wonderful. So unique among Pokemon games. So different. And man, did I love them. At the time they came out, they were a massive step away from the regular formula of the Pokemon games. And Genius Sonority is still around. They're still making Pokemon games even. I mean, they're making the garbage mobile Pokemon games that I hate with a fiery passion of 1,000 suns, but still, they're still around. But frankly, I'd always hoped that these Pokemon games would get full-on remakes or at least remasters. But failing that, it'd be nice to have an easy and legal way for people to re-experience them, or for younger fans to discover them from the first time, because they are good. Like, they're properly good. And the games I've been talking about here don't even cover what I consider to be the best of the GameCube's library. Star Wars Rogue Squadron and its sequel. Metroid Prime, Wind Waker, Luigi's Mansion, Eternal Darkness, Twilight Princess, Resident Evil 4, Tales of Symphonia, Beyond Good and Evil, Beautiful Joe, and the likes of Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. I have vague memories of that. I think it was a pretty good Mario Golf game, wasn't it? But the GameCube, like the Wii U before it, is really considered to be a failure, simply because it sold so poorly compared to the other consoles of its generation. Its market penetration was just lousy compared to what PlayStation were doing, for example. Which is sad, because the GameCube, like the Wii U, had a great game library. I mean, even the younger gamers out there, you've seen it. Every Wii U game that got ported and released on the Switch over the last, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been now, sold extremely well. People loved those games. Proving, quite obviously, the Wii U's issue, why it failed so bad, was never about its games. And something similar is true of the GameCube. It was powerful, in fact it was more powerful than the PlayStation 2. It was well designed, had a fantastic controller obviously. It had great games and a rich game library, but the PS2 destroyed it in the market. And I mean just obliterated it. And quite a lot of that had to do not with just the PS2 being a better games machine, because technically it wasn't, like on paper it just wasn't. But the PS2 had a built-in DVD player, and its pricing meant that it was a very, very, very affordable DVD player by comparison to what a standalone DVD player would cost you back in the day. And of course DVDs were the big new thing for your movies and whatnot at home. Everybody wanted DVDs. They were a massive upgrade over VHS. And this isn't just speculation. I know for a fact from first-person experience that a lot, and I mean a lot, of people bought a PS2 mostly, if not exclusively, for the DVD playback functionality. Like the gaming stuff was secondary, or they didn't even care that it played games. And I know this for a fact because I was working retail back in those days, and I sold the damn things to myself. I had these conversations with customer after customer after customer. Hey, I want a DVD player. What do you got? Well, check this out. Anyway, but I'm drifting further and further from my find my point here. Point is, the GameCube absolutely deserves another chance at sitting in the sunlight, both for nostalgia in people like me who were there back in the day, and for the younger gamers who never saw it in its prime, to just, take a look at what spectacularly fun games that are out there. So I really do hope that the speculation about a GameCube controller for Switch 2 is indeed a prelude to NSO GameCube games, because wouldn't that be lovely? In any case, thank you very much for watching. If you're excited about the GameCube stuff as I am, please let me know down below. What did you spend most time playing back in the day? I'm old, so is gaming. It was so good though. Thanks to the patrons. Catch you next time.
Get in. I've got candy.
Can I go home? A leprechaun tells me to burn things.
Boring.